just announce this one more time. We're in session now, but if anyone wants to speak, please sign up to speak. Thank you. Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to the first town hall meeting of the Police Oversight Task Force. We're glad you're here, and we're very appreciative of you taking the time out of your busy schedules to help the task force do its work and focus on the issues that matter to you. The Police Oversight Task Force is charged with helping the city review its entire police oversight process and making recommendations on improvements to the City Council by the end of December 2013. Tonight's meeting is the first of 4 town hall meetings that the task force will hold to hear from the community. At this time, 2 future town hall dates and locations have been finalized. They are Tuesday, September the 17th at the West Mesa Community Center, located at 5500 Glen Rio Road, Northwest, and Thursday, October the 17th at the Cesar Chavez Community Center, located at 7505 Catherine Avenue, Southeast. The town hall meetings will begin at 5:30 and are scheduled to end at 7:30. We're also planning to set up a virtual town hall that you'll be able to access via the internet. There's a flyer available at the sign-up table that has future meeting dates and times and other contact information for the task force. I would encourage you to take some flyers and post them or share them with your friends. We want to make sure that we advertise these meetings as widely as possible so we get the greatest public participation possible. So please use your email list, social media. We want to get the word out every possible way. Also, information about the task force can be found on our webpage. There's a link to our page on the City Council's website, which is at www.cabq.gov/council. The task force webpage contains PDFs of all the information handed out at each of our meetings, information and updates about future meeting locations and times, and bios of each task force member. It will also have a link to a video of this and all future town hall meetings. Tonight's meeting is all about you. In a few moments, we'll begin taking public comment. Again, if you haven't signed up to speak yet, there are sign-up sheets at the table by the entrance. We're going to call upon speakers in the order that they signed up. I'll call the name of the first speaker and the following 2 speakers. When you hear your name, please make your way to the front of the aisle where the microphones and podium are located. I was going to have a 3-minute time limit, but we've got so far only 3 speakers signed up to speak, so I'm going to make that 5 minutes. So the public comment will be limited to 5 minutes this evening. A bell will ring once, indicating that you have 30 seconds remaining to wrap up comments. At 5 minutes, a second bell will ring, indicating that your time is up. And so that we may be as productive as possible this evening, I would ask that you please refrain from personal attacks and criticism. We want to hear your concerns and comments about the police oversight process and how we can improve it. With that said, the first speaker tonight will be Richard Moore, followed by Kenneth Ellis and Mike Gomez.
Good evening, committee members. My name is Richard Moore. I'm here representing this evening an organization called Los Jardines Institute. It's the Gardens Institute in English. And we're an organization, community-based organization that has been together in the city for quite a few years. Police brutality is an issue that I've both been personally working on and organizationally working on for close to 50 years now. If you look back or think back 50 years ago, then you all would realize that during that time there was no city council system that existed in the city of Albuquerque. So police repression or police brutality is unfortunately not anything new to our communities or to the city of Albuquerque, or unfortunately this region or this country today. I think I want to commend you all for agreeing to be on commission to take testimony. But you've got a lot to prove. Let's just be real about it. I mean, at the end of the day, part of your task is to write a list of recommendations that have been made in town hall meetings. But for many of us, you know, many of our community members are still concerned today, as we expressed in the city council before, around police retaliation against those that come public and make public comment or make public testimony. Now, for many of us that have been in the community business for quite a few years, we know that on January 29th of 1972, that 2 members of our organization were assassinated by the Albuquerque Police Department, by the Sheriff's Department, and the state police, because the Albuquerque Police Department during that time had a unit that was called the Metro Squad. And that unit primarily was dealing with individuals or organizations that came from organizations that either made criticism of the Albuquerque Police Department or were perceived to be organizations that could cause a threat to the structure, to the city's business. On January 29th, as I say, of 1972, Rito Canales and Antonio Cordova were assassinated by the Metro Squad. So our communities very clearly are knowledgeable of what retaliation can mean by this police department and by police entities. Unfortunately, it's not a game. It's not anything that's not for real. History speaks for itself. As we've testified in front of the City Council and County Commissions, we've expressed concern around retaliation. As we've testified to the federal government, the Department of Justice, we brought up and expressed concerns around retaliation. And so many young people, either members of our organization or others, even those that we talked to about possibly coming out to a town hall meeting, ask, what guarantees can you give us that we will not be retaliated against? And my response very simply to that is none. But on the other side of that coin, some of us need to stand up and make public comment and continue to make recommendations. I have no qualms with those that have concerns around why they shouldn't for their own health and safety or for the health and safety of their family members. But as I said to you, I very clearly understand why those concerns would bear forward. Our testimony has said that we'd like to see a police oversight commission that has subpoena power. Very clearly, we've talked about that over and over again. We've also expressed and recommended that subpoena power be given to the police oversight committee so that people could be subpoenaed to come and testify, whether those are police officers or whoever they may be. We've seen some of that happen without the subpoena power in the past, but that was a volunteer situation. The other is that the police oversight process cannot be controlled by the Albuquerque City Council or by the mayor's office or the chief administrative officer, or the chief of police. And again, we've seen in many cases where that power of those 3 entities has been abused, have been used, and have been used against many of us. So then we need a process then that's completely independent of the city of Albuquerque, that does not primarily report back to the city, but has complete authority in regards to speaking back to the people themselves. I won't say in our other recommendation that we believe that there should be a process used of an elections. I will not say that because many times elections do not work for us in some instances. No? But it needs to be independent. It needs to be selected by the people. There should be a process set up in this city where elections are taking place in Martineztown, San Jose, Duranes, South Broadway, North Valley, Deep South Valley, wherever it may be, Southeast Heights or wherever.
Thank you very much.
We select our own representatives to represent us. So again, the proof is in the pudding at the end of the day. We will not continue to encourage people to come to testify because of retaliation, but people like myself and others will do that. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you. I neglected to mention for my fellow task force members and folks in the audience, not only are these meetings being recorded, you'll be able to see them online, but notes are being taken as well. So there'll be both written record as well as video record of these meetings. Thank you. Strauss.
My name's Kenneth Ellis, and once again, my son was the Iraq war veteran that was shot and killed by Albuquerque police in 2010, and that put me on the course that I'm on now. Mr. Moore, Richard Moore, has a very valid point. We could pack this room if people weren't afraid of the police department. I spent a lot of time on the streets of Albuquerque passing out flyers, campaigning to get Department of Justice here, and I've talked to literally thousands of people, and they're afraid, I mean terrified of the police department because of what brutality and the misconduct and the whoopings that they've gotten. Anyone that spoke out and spoke up against Albuquerque police was retaliated against. The bottom line is that you guys are tasked with coming up with some ideas to present to City Council, and when you guys convened and you voted for your chair and your vice chair and your members, we were in the audience and we were observing everybody and watching what was going on, and it's disturbing. We have footage of Ms. Kennedy here and some others that during this voting process where, you know, their demeanor and their whole disposition changed throughout. You can see the disgruntled looks in their faces. But my bottom line is that we are here. This is for the police department. This is not us against them. This is not. This is to help our police department. Our police department desperately needs to get rid of this blue wall of silence, and they desperately need to have accountability within the rank and files so that they can do their jobs without being afraid of the misconduct of another officer and being retaliated against themselves. It's you know, it's just it's amazing that that the corruption and the level of the brutality and stuff that went on within the police department. So I guess just in closing, I just would like to, you know, ask you guys to all, you know, search your heart and your souls to the reason why you're here. It's not for the community. It's not. It is the community's going to benefit from it. Don't get me wrong, but this is for our police department. You guys are up here to help our city council come up with some ideas to help our police department. These guys, these men in blue, need to have esprit de corps, need to be proud of their police department, need to be proud of their leadership, and they're not. They are, you know, very, their morale is extremely low. It's been well documented. So yeah, please remember that this is for the police department and the community is going to benefit from it. So make sure you know that you're doing it for the right reasons. Thank you guys very much.
Thank you. Mr. Gomez, followed by Sean Willoughby, and Robin, I don't know if it's Porcello or Porcea.
Hello, I'm Mike Gomez, father of Alan Gomez, who was shot and killed by APD in May of 2011. When I first started coming to POC meetings, there was nobody there. I was the only one there. I went to the long-term planning committee meetings. They used to hide them. They used to put them in at 10 o'clock. Over at the Pyramid Building. Then the next week they changed it to 2 o'clock at the Pyramid Building. Then they move it to the city. You know, they were just moving things around. They would never be consistent. So I'm hoping that you folks will be consistent with helping the police department and the community both. What gets me is that there's no, I hardly ever heard of this on the TV. It was like, I don't know if you had decided when you were going to have it or what, but there was no publicity on it. You should have gave it at least a week or so ahead. You know, not a couple of days ahead on a holiday weekend. I mean, you know, for one thing, people are scared to come out here because this isn't the feds doing this. This is the city. This is part of APD, the county, and the state, whatever you want to say it. It's not the feds, so there's not going to be that many people here because think they're gonna be retaliated against because it's happened to their loved ones and their friends before. So, and it's a fact. It's a fact. And I don't know how many of you people has ever been to a POC meeting. I don't recognize any of you. Maybe one. But you should do your homework on it. I was into it for the past, since June of 2011. I got to see it all work, and it didn't work. It was a joke. And that's what you're here for, is to help improve this circus that we have of the POC. For one thing is that they would suppress the public. Like, I was the only one there for a couple of meetings. This I'm talking about in August of 2011. I found out that there was this case coming up, because they don't ever put down the names of them. It was case 6611. I'll never forget this. I have to call, and they have to kind of get an approval, go through the ranks to be able to tell me, well, who's case 6611? Oh, it was a guy named Enrique Carrasco. All right? He was shot multiple times in the back by an APD officer after a fight with his girlfriend. And I got a hold of his girlfriend just in time for her to come over. And the APD officer who was giving the summary of it, Lieutenant Miller, he didn't even know the autopsy results. He didn't even know them. He didn't know how many times this guy was shot, you know. He didn't know where he was shot at. We'd ask, back then we could ask questions, get this. In August of 2011, I could ask a question, but I had to go through the chair. So I would go to you, then the chair would go to the officer, right? Well, that worked until after we discredited the officer's reports, the statements completely. Then all of a sudden in September of 2011, the chair had made a new ruling saying that the public couldn't speak anymore. So, and of course, this is at the long-term planning committee, which wasn't recorded, all right? And I think it should be recorded, the long-term planning committee. It says so in the statutes that you're supposed to record these meetings, but for some reason, the long-term planning committee wasn't recorded, and probably still isn't. So that's another thing to consider. If you're going to do any kind of a meeting to make any kind of decisions on these things, they should be recorded. You shouldn't be like APD, who doesn't want to record anything. They don't want dash cam recorders, all right? Well, the state police have them, and county police have them, but not APD. They don't want them. No, because it's gonna show what they do. Another thing to do for the public and for APD is to enforce the lapel cameras, all right? I have heard it for the past 2.5 years of, well, you should have had, my lapel camera didn't work, I lost the batteries, or I didn't turn it on, or blah, 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 blah. No more of that, all right? No more of that. Don't put up with it. They're supposed to have them on, make them have them on. No more excuses.
Thank you. The next two speakers are Sean Willoughby, hopefully I'm saying these names right, and Robin, is it Porcea or Porcella?
Depends if you want to say it in Spanish,
Okay, well,
Italian,
you're
or
next.
American. So.
After this gentleman. Before you start, sir, let me just say, because I've heard this with all of the first three speakers, concerns about retaliation or problems with the police force. What I want to say is that part of our process, first of all, there'll be three more town hall meetings like this, and hope people will come. But the other is that there'll be a 5th meeting that will be a virtual town hall. It's not structured yet. We don't know exactly what form it's going to take yet. But the point I want to make with it is that people won't have to be speaking publicly. You may have to put your name to your comment via the website, but you won't have to get up and stand up in front of a room full of people. Okay, sorry. Okay.
Chairman Lippman, ladies and gentlemen of the task force, thank you for the opportunity to allow us to come and speak to you today. to share ideas and concerns we have with the POC. My name is Sean Willoughby, as we've been told. I'm the Vice President of the Albuquerque Police Officers Association, representing the rank and file for Albuquerque police officers. I'd like to start off, I wish I was a little more prepared. 5 minutes is a long time to speak. I'd like to start off by telling you a little bit about me. I've been a police officer in this community for about 11 years. I'm proud to be a police officer. I'm proud to serve the membership, and I do not feel that APD has a problem with corruption. There is an extreme, overwhelming amount of scrutiny on us right now because of the dangerous job that we do and the force options that we are tasked with in performing our duties. I understand the importance of public support in the public having faith in its police department, and I'm glad to see that there's a well-balanced mixture of individuals that are going to try to help us tackle these problems. First and foremost, the complaints I have with the POC is that as a body of individuals, they seem very disorganized, not only in Robert's Rule of Order and being able to perform the duties of the POC, but knowing exactly what their job entails. Systematically right now, the POC is ideally supposed to either give a thumbs up or a thumbs down to the findings in an IRO investigation. They do not possess the training, the background, or the career paths to make any other determination. When I'm at a POC meeting, I see commissioners on that are sitting on this commission that are making judgments based on feeling or what they see on TV or their interpretation of law enforcement. There's no training for these individuals. They've been maybe on one ride-along. They have absolutely no fundamental knowledge of use of force law and the Constitution of the United States. They have absolutely no clue what it is like to be a police officer and serve the community and the challenges that we're faced. Another concern I have with the POC is that, is any changes that we make going to be good enough? Individuals that have spoken tonight, my heart goes out to them immensely because they're fighting for the loss of a loved one, and there is nothing or anyone or any policy that is going to be put in place to make them grieve any less or feel any better. So, I mean, you have an overwhelming challenge that you're faced with. I would like to see mandatory training quarterly for the POC, not only in constitutional law, but in law enforcement, use of force law. I would like them to experience FATS training, which is where it's almost like an inactive shooter type of training. I think they should all have to go to the Citizens Police Academy. If you look at every commission that is employed by the city of Albuquerque, and you do some research as to the resumes of the individuals that are on these commissions, all of them have an overwhelmingly exceptional past in the actual craft that they're serving a commission on. They're all professionals of their commission, so they're making an educated decision when they're making these decisions. Everything that's going on right now leads you to believe that these are some extremely important decisions. This is the most important commission in the city of Albuquerque. They need to be educated, they need to know their craft, they need to know their job. The POC can never be a disciplinary body for Albuquerque police officers. They don't have the ability to do so. They're not involved in the Garrity protected statements. They have a snapshot view of an investigation, and they need to trust in their IRO. They need to trust in their investigators who work diligently to perform their duties. They need to trust in IA. They need to trust in the investigation in order to effectively do their job. This is, I think the POC is a great idea. I think it got away from us as far as individuals who really wanted to do better for the community and really wanted to have a bipartisan look. I sit at POC meetings and before votes are passed, they all look at each other to see how everybody else is going to vote. That is extremely disheartening to me, and I think fundamentally it needs to be well balanced. You need that law enforcement, you need that constitutional law, you need the prosecutor or the defense attorney. You need individuals who are extremely competent into making these decisions, who are dedicated to learn this craft, who are dedicated to make a well-balanced, well-educated decision. Because if you don't have that, it's all for nothing, and the public is not going to be satisfied with your findings. And that's all I have. Thank you very much for your time.
Sir, before you leave, one of our task force members has a question for you.
Yes, ma'am.
Mr. Willoughby, thanks for your comments. The question I have is you talked about the oversight committee needing to be well balanced. Sorry. When you say well balanced, can you describe that?
When I say well balanced, I mean it's a very bipartisan commission. We can't have, police officers would be just as untrusting to have an ACLU representative on that commission that the ACLU would have to have an actual commissioned law enforcement officer on that commission. And at the end of the day, both of their votes would probably cancel each other out. When I say well balanced, I'm meaning just a good, it's hard to put it into words that I can share with you. We just need people on both sides that don't have anything to gain, that aren't rooting for any one team. I don't think that the commission should have any contact with any civil movement. I mean, other than public comment, there shouldn't be attending meetings. That they need to be focused on what their job is. They need to be competent at the job that they do, and that they need to vote with their conscience. But above being balanced, I want them to be trained.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Mr. Chairman, may I also?
Mr. Willoughby, I had asked a question before and haven't been able to find a response to it. Are you aware of any survey of the officers that's been done to talk about what improvements they think they need to see?
Yes, definitely. The APOA conducted a survey of its members. We polled about 453 of our members. I believe it was in November that we released the findings of that survey. Police officers, generally speaking, to get to the core of the dynamic, want support. You have 900 police officers that work for this department. They're, like I said, you're never going to get me to say that we're corrupt or that, I mean, these officers are wrong or unjust in their dealings. And when we do have a bad apple and somebody does make a mistake, they are punished swiftly. And most of them are no longer employed by the Albuquerque Police Department.
Was that an anonymous survey?
No, it was from the Albuquerque Police Officers Association just to the members, the rank and file that we represent.
But
So-
were the members able to answer anonymously?
Yes, they were able to answer anonymously, and there were a large portion of comments, but we first and foremost wanted to get an honest assessment of how they felt. So in order for us to do that, we needed to provide them that trust and anonymity. And some comments on there, it was very easy to tell who the officer was or why they were saying what they said. So the comments of the survey were kept under lock and key, and that was a motion made by our executive board and backed up by and ratified by our membership. But the actual results, numbers and statistics, that was released to everyone. And I mean, if you're curious, I can probably get everybody a copy.
That'd probably be a good idea.
Thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Thank you for the time.
Thank you.
Hi, my name is Robin Porcella. I own New Mexico Advocates for Change. My background,
The microphone.
okay, my back, down,
No, the whole, yeah, there you go.
okay,
So we can see.
okay, thank you. My father was a policeman when I was growing up. So I always had a real open feeling towards police people because my father was one, and I went to all the Christmas parties and all that sort of thing. But when I moved here, and that was in New Jersey, when I moved here, a few years ago, I was completely and totally shocked. My neighbor had a problem. Somebody ran into his car and then pushed his car into his house. The police came, but when he was understandably upset and kind of yelling, the police pulled a gun on him. He did not have any weapons in hand, nothing. He was just upset and yelling. I've never seen anything like that before. And I hope I never see anything like that again. That's not okay. It was not justified. Now, personally, I've never attended any POC meetings. I do go to a lot of city council meetings. And at the city council meeting, when they discussed the budget, I was shocked again. Albuquerque spends the second highest rate, percentage-wise, towards the police department in this entire country. Las Vegas, Nevada is the first. What justification is there for that? 5 percentage points more than the average mid-sized city in this country. And there's so many problems, I don't understand that. Another issue that keeps coming up is the police mental illness, PTSD. It keeps coming up that the lack of training with people with mental illness and PTSD needs to be addressed, seriously addressed. The other problem that I keep seeing, all those women's bodies that were found on the west side, there has been no movement towards settling that issue. It makes women in this city feel terribly unsafe. I really think it's important for the police to reestablish some trust, feelings of public safety. I mean, I grew up with that. I was perfectly fine walking down the street at 5 years old. That's no longer the case. And thank you for your time. Thank you.
That was the last person I had that was signed up to speak. Is there anyone else who would like to make a statement? Okay, is there anything that any one of the task force members would like to say?
Mr. Chair, I had a question. Officer Willoughby brought up a poll that had been taken among the officers, and it wasn't clear to me whether that poll actually addressed the question of the POC or if that was on broader issues.
I don't believe that there were any questions specific to the Police Oversight Commission in our poll.
Thank you. Okay, so let me emphasize again that we want really as big a turnout at these meetings as possible. Please spread the word. Feel free to come to all of the next town hall meetings. I think the more people that come out to these town hall meetings, not only will provide us greater and wider input, but will help us as we move forward in our process. If we have a lot of people who are concerned about this issue, and I know that there are, and they show up at our town hall meetings and our task force meetings, it will help us as we move forward. Please remember the website. It's off of the City Council website, so that's, I think it's on the flyer as well. And the Police Oversight Task Force is under new projects, or current projects. And you can find it there. We have a whole web page that's devoted to just this Police Oversight Task Force process. The last thing I wanted to say in closing is that we need to do this with the cooperation of the community. That's the police force and civilians. It's very important moving forward to have a safe city, that there be trust reinstated between the police department and the citizens of Albuquerque. They're both dependent on each other. The police officers will tell you themselves they can't be everywhere all the time. They have to depend on the public, and the public has to depend on the police. Our process here, the task force process, is going to be completely open. We're going to adhere to all of the open meetings laws, so all of these town hall meetings are recorded, notes are taken, and they'll be broadcast on our website. In addition, all of the task force meetings will be posted on the website, and those will be open with opportunities for public comment. That's all I had to say, and thank you all for coming. Yes, okay, have some other.
we've been given a lot of material to read, preparing to work on the task force. Of everything I've read, there's one line that seems to me to be the most significant thing that's in all the materials. And it's a quote from Emma Phillips and Jennifer Trone, Building Public Confidence in Police Through Civilian Oversight, published by the Barry Institute of Justice, September 2002. And what they said was, civilian oversight can never substitute for good police leadership or displace internal methods of fostering accountability. I hope that the work of this task force is not going to be just playing around the margins. It's never going to work unless we have good police leadership and good accountability within the police force. I'm a public defender. I read lots of criminal complaints. I do not particularly distrust individual police officers, but to use one example, I have handled a case where a man was drunk, he fell asleep in a store. The store owner called the police officer. The police officer, on the surface of it, the police officer woke the man up, and when the man woke up, he hit the officer, and the officer charged the man with battery on a peace officer, which is a felony. But in fact, the way the officer woke the man up was with what is called, and with what the officer called a sternal rub. A sternal rub is when you take your knuckle and you place it against a person's sternum, hard, and you use pressure and you move it back and forth. It's a medical procedure.
Mr. Wagner,
Yeah.
excuse me, I'm sorry to interrupt, but I don't want to get into a discussion of police tactics.
My point is that this officer was clearly trained to do it. That's
Okay,
the issue.
our role is to hear from the public, that's why we're here tonight, and then to come up with recommendations for changing the civilian police oversight process.
Without going into any more detail, I'll just say it was something the officer was clearly trained to do. It was inappropriate for the situation, and I hope that one role of this task force, and certainly it should be a role of the Oversight Commission, to be making recommendations on what kind of tactics the police are trained to use. This officer didn't, by what he was trained, act improperly.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else? Okay, again, thank you folks. We really do appreciate your coming out on a weeknight. And please spread the word about future town halls. We'd like to get as many people as possible. Thank you very much.
You know, excuse me, but if you want a better turnout, you might want to make the meetings just a little bit later for the people that are working to get home.
Okay, thank you. Don't forget, I'll say this one more time. We hope to have the virtual town hall as well, which should accommodate folks who don't want to speak in public, folks who can't make the other 3 remaining town halls, etc. So thank you very much.
Excuse me, on the point of the best time, also I understood the comment that there wasn't enough notice of this meeting, and also that it wasn't widely advertised. It would be helpful to get ideas from you all. I mean, in terms of the advance notice, I got that. But in terms of places to publish notice that you think your communities might actually see or hear, I would appreciate knowing what people are thinking about that, so we can do a better job in terms of getting information out.
I happened to hear it on Channel 7 tonight, that's why I'm here. But why aren't the neighborhood association people sending me notice that you have a thing going on tonight?
My understanding that it was distributed through all of the neighborhood associations, all of the community centers. I know I myself distributed it to half a dozen email lists. I asked for city staff to develop a flyer so that could be distributed. I know that was distributed. But we did run into a holiday weekend. Hopefully you have well advance notice now of the next 3 town hall meetings, and we'll get information out as soon as possible when we know how we're going to handle the virtual town hall. So please spread the word. Thank you. Okay. Meeting adjourned.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Are you filming Sparky's at Justice Center, or are you with TV? Protocol, okay. Yeah. Wow. Yeah, I love about this. It's like Friday, there's a lot in here. So obviously, letting people know as much as they can.
You know, like in between council meetings and stuff like that.
I don't know.
Because, you know, a lot of the dialects. Yeah, you know the one I'm talking about, right? Yeah. And then, but I mean, I think it's.